right. You know, I was asked, first of all, thank you, Alyssa, so much for inviting me. My name is D. Equil King. I serve as the director of the Office of Intercultural Student Engagement. And so I'm really happy to talk, to have this dialogue about graduate success at UAlbany. So the objectives, it's a dialogue, so I'll be asking you some questions and give an overview of some of the top tips and obstacles related to diversity and inclusion and success in graduate school, and really talk a little bit about the first semester plan development. And then I call it what you got. Some people call it question and answer, but the point is that you'll get an opportunity to ask me any questions you have. So just to get down and dirty and in there, Intercultural Student Engagement is an office at the University at Albany. Really, many people see it as a undergraduate collegiate office, but that is not true. Intercultural Student Engagement is really an office that provides resources for faculty, whether they're teaching or non-teaching, and graduate and undergraduate scholars. And so just a bit about language. When I refer to students, I typically call them scholars. When I'm talking about faculty scholars, I typically call them faculty. When I'm talking about professional faculty, I typically call them faculty as well. If I need to distinguish between teaching or non-teaching faculty, I'll do so in that way. Does that make sense? Now, I won't be able to see y'all faces, so if you're nodding, I'm not seeing it right now. But if that makes sense, then that's good for me. Oh, I can see y'all now. Okay, so our mission, vision, and values. So the mission is to create a socially just, welcoming, and inclusive environment for all of our scholars, right? A place where you can engage in dialogue, challenge any systems that you think are hurting you from moving forward, and most importantly, build supportive and collaborative relationships. We do this by really focusing on 6 values, but for the purpose of this conversation, I want to talk about 2 of them. One is called family formation. And so when we say family formation, we're not talking about the families that you have back home and now we want to reform that family connection. We're actually talking about building a personal support system here, right? And so people who will celebrate when things are great, people who will commiserate with you or complain with you when things are not going so well. So that's the first thing. Second is community connectedness. And this is about your professional network. Who are the faculty members that you build connections with? Who are the people in your cohort that you build connections with? How many conferences did you go to and connect with other scholars like yourself working on with similar research interests? Did you connect to them? And so those are the 2 things in your first year as a graduate scholar that out of the 6 values that I want to impress upon you to really focus on. And so intercultural student engagement, I know many of you, let me just, it's 2 of you here on the call. How many of you have ever heard of an office called Intercultural Student Engagement? Anyone?
Say it again, what's your question?
Have you ever heard of an office called Intercultural Student Engagement?
Yeah, personally, I didn't hear about the office called that Intercultural Student Engagement, but I obviously hear about that intercultural engagement about, yeah. So,
and very often when people say intercultural engagement, there's a bias towards thinking about other nations, right? They're thinking international, right? But in a nation like this one, that has so many people from so many nations, intercultural engagement happens right here in the United States, right? No one culture dominates here. People will say American culture, but certainly that might be a little bit of a misnomer, right? It may not be as simple. So here at the University at Albany, intercultural student engagement, I'm circling it with my mouse, is part of a larger unit called the Great Dane Union. And so I mentioned this just so you'll understand that everything in the campus center is part of that Great Dane Union. There's student activities, or everything that's student related. There's student activities, intercultural student engagement, and campus center management. Right? Just a little bit. I know you're new around here, and we'll be sharing this, but I wanted you to realize that we're a much bigger team than what you just see. And so who else is on that team?
So,
you have a question?
Quick question, yeah. So when you are talking about that intercultural student engagement, it does not necessarily the international student. It can be whole student population.
Yes, it's the entire population. And so intercultural student engagement has an office manager, Marcy Cassavant. Her pronouns are she, her, and hers. This is this handsome gentleman with the bow tie. That would be me. I had a little bit more pounds on when I took that picture. Then we have a Gender and Sexuality Resource Center and a Women's Resource Center. These centers are actually managed by Courtney D. Allard, who is the Assistant Director of our office. Pronouns are they, them, and theirs. The Gender and Sexuality Resource Center supports the LGBTQ community, but also is a resource for those who would like to learn more about that community. And the same is true for each of our resource centers. You'll hear a name connected to them. They support and empower and advocate for those identity groups, but they're also places where you can learn more about the history and experiences, celebrations, and failures of members of those identity groups. So the Gender and Sexuality Resource Center, GSRC, and the Women's Resource Center are overseen by Courtney D. Allard. Then we have a Multicultural Resource Center, which focuses on race and ethnicity, and an Interfaith Center, which focuses on faith-based identities. We have an imam on campus. We have a Catholic chaplain, a Protestant chaplain, and we also have a Jewish chaplain. But we also have many of our groups, Hindu groups and Buddhist groups, and there are many, many faith-based groups on campus, and they all intersect and come together and do work in the Interfaith Center. And so when we say interfaith, we mean that we want people, regardless of their faith traditions or their spirituality, to come together and learn more about each other, right? And so Amberly, Assistant Director of Intercultural Student Engagement, oversees those areas. Her pronouns are she, her, and hers. And then last but certainly not least, we have a peer educator program where we actually educate undergraduate and graduate collegiates to work and do some of this work with us as well. And those are paid opportunities. Some of our peer educators receive a free room, the undergraduates, and some of them receive pay. The pay is not, it's a little bit over minimum wage, but it's better than nothing. And I'll say this, I'm not sure if you're both international students in terms of how the university defines international students, but sometimes it'd be really difficult to find working opportunities. And I am well aware of that. And so I actually try to hire as many international students as I can, right? So there's something to be aware of. So now we get and the last piece is that, look, you'll hear in the United States that there's an achievement gap. At the undergraduate level here at the University of Albany, which I'm very proud of, it's my job to kind of work on these things, there's no achievement gap, right? There's no achievement gap. That African heritage, usually you find the achievement gap around African heritage and Latinx heritage students. The average graduation rate for those students in the United States, you see African heritage 38%, Latinx heritage students 45, 46%. In each of these cases, that national average is higher, but we have to, in my opinion, we have to do more work on these European heritage and Asian heritage students. That may sound weird, but it goes to show that everyone needs support. And so from 2002 to 2017, I had been primarily focusing on African and Latinx heritage students, not even being aware that Asian and European heritage students were not doing as well as they could be, right? Because we sometimes assume that they're doing really, really well in this country. And so now we're really putting a lot more of our energy and efforts into ensuring that those populations also do well. For example, you'll see here that African heritage students graduate at the highest rate of any student at the University of Albany. I could tell you that is not something that you're going to find at many institutions. In fact, there's only one institution that does better with that student population than the University of Albany. And I'm not
Ekwa, would you mind just explaining the achievement gap that you mentioned just more generally?
So nationally in the United States, we find that African heritage students and Latino students or Latinx or Hispanic students, depending on what we call them, typically, because of societal issues primarily, do not graduate college at a rate as high as Asian heritage students and European heritage students. And so if you're looking at this chart, 54.8% of undergrad, now this is an undergraduate chart, around 55% of college students actually graduate, right? And this is 6-year graduation rates we're talking about. Not very good in my opinion. At UAlbany, 66% of the enrolled undergraduates graduate within 6 years. European heritage students in the United States typically graduate at 62%. At UAlbany, it's higher now, but at UAlbany in 2017, overall it was 64%. Asian heritage students in the United States graduated 63.2%. At UAlbany, 70%. African heritage students nationally graduate at 38%. At UAlbany, 76%. I'm very proud of that one. And Latinx heritage students graduated around 46% nationally, and here they're graduating at 66%. So the metrics for my personal success is to actually see all of those numbers rise. Is that fine, Alyssa?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So the first thing I want to talk a little bit about is cultivating relationships while you're here at the university, right? And so there are 4 different ways that I would like to highlight that you can cultivate the relationships that you need for success. 1, cultivate your relationships with your faculty. You know, they serve as wonderful role models for advising and mentorship, and could be a wonderful opportunity for you for them to become supervisors for you, right? So the next piece is supervisory relationships. That same faculty member might actually have a lab assistant opportunity for you, right? And so you could do an assistantship, practicum experiences. So you're involved in some research with the faculty. Then there's peer relationships that are important. And so you're going to have a cohort. You're not always going to like the people in your cohort, right? But you want to cultivate those relationships. So I have a question about cultivation. Like, well, let me get to the affinity group piece. So cohorts, you have your cohorts. that are going to be important as peers. You have a campus-wide relationship that you can develop. And then there are local communities that our office, by the way, if you're new to the Capital District, our office can connect you to any community that you're trying to find. You know, New York State is very diverse, and many national and international organizations are here as well. So if I don't know of a group or a spiritual connection, whether it's a political connection or something else, I can find someone who can connect you to what you need in terms of the community. And then there are affinity groups, and these are groups that are based on identities. So for me, I'm a Pan-Africanist, but I identify as African. I'm African American. You know, I'm also an avid golfer. I was raised as a Buddhist. And so there's a lot of identities that I have, and I've connected to those identities here. So my question for you, cultivating relationships. What do you do when you want to cultivate a relationship? You can either type it into the chat, or you could just unmute yourself and tell me directly. Or you put your hand up and I can call you, since there's two of you here. You two, Alyssa, you're here and you can participate, right? Because as a faculty member, this is an important question for you as well. But what do you do to cultivate?
Up until about 2 months ago, I was also a student, so I understand.
Oh, so yeah. So what do you do to cultivate a relationship? And, you know, let me just stop for a moment and have you, I wasn't intending to because I wasn't sure how many people would be here, but why don't you just introduce yourselves to me?
Let's go first. I think I introduced myself at the beginning, perhaps, but maybe not. My name is Alyssa Yesko. I am the director of the Pathways into Education Center. And I did just mention that I was a student at UAlbany up until May. Cam was actually at my dissertation defense. I completed my PhD program in May after a long journey, several years. But yeah, I've been working at the university for since December, so I'm a relatively new employee, and I'm learning a lot, actually, even through this session in my time here, and happy to be here.
Yeah, in my case, normally, I'm a new student. That's why I normally introduce as, hi, this is Kem Sedai. I'm a new PhD student at University of Albany for the program, at EPL. So I recently graduated with my master's at Syracuse University with international relations degree. I'm originally from Nepal. That's what, and I have work experiences in international education, like that. Mm-hmm. I think you are muted, Iko.
Thank you. I said I've had students who were from Nepal, and I have a few pieces in my office. If you ever visit my office, and I hope you will, you'll notice that I have a mask that was from Nepal.
Oh, great.
And I don't want to say your name wrong, so Madam Zhu.
Yes. Hi, I'm a new graduate student, and my program is I'm in the educational psychology and methodology program, and that's a whole new area for me because I accomplished a public policy and administration major when I was an undergraduate student. So I'm very curious, and I choose this program because I like psychology. I was psychology minor when I was in undergraduate school at SUNY also. So I might have a lot of questions, and
well, we're here to support you. and the thing that you should know is, whether they're written out before this session is over, you'll have my email address, and you know, I mean, office phones aren't really so popular right now, but you'll at least have all my contact information. If you Google me, you can find it as well. I'm the only Echo King in the
Actually, I
country.
found you in on LinkedIn.
Yeah. So I'll have to accept you if you send it. But now, how do you pronounce your name?
Ruoxin, but you can call me
Ruzin?
April. Yes.
Ruzin?
Yes.
Ruzin.
Yeah.
Okay. So I apologize for not doing that. I was a little flustered or a little out of sorts when we started, and so I'm good now. So, work and assistantship experience. So, the question was, how do you cultivate a relationship? Like when you want to cultivate a relationship, what are the things that you do?
So in my case, normally I'm also like little bit connected person. I like to make the relationship, to contact people. So basically we talk about in my case, I talk about what I'm studying, what is my interest, and where I came from, where I graduated. I try to see some of the connection, mutual connection between that. That might be some of the helpful way for cultivating relationships.
Ruzine, how do you do?
I'm a little confused about the question. So, what
do you do when you want to form a relationship with someone? If you want to get to know someone better and have a good relationship, what steps do you take?
You mean a person I don't know?
Yes, a person you might not know. It could be a faculty member. It could be someone that you know a little bit, but not very well. Imagine if it was Alyssa and you wanted to have a stronger relationship with Alyssa. How would you go about doing that?
Okay. I shall start some conversations. Because we're not like close friends, we still unfamiliar with each other. So I think it's necessary for us to exchange some information like hobbies, culture, like something she wouldn't like and something I wouldn't like, and something she would like and something I would like, and we maybe we can have some we can have lunch or dinner together.
That's right.
In this situation, we can have more online chat, or we can.
I love food, so I would be up for that.
Right? And so there are some universal things about humans, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or what the Mohawk, who actually this land that we're on is actually this ancestral land for the Mohawk, right? And one of the words that they use to describe humankind is Ongwe, right? And Ongwe means humans. And so humans, if someone there's a universal language that we have, right? And a lot of it is in our nonverbals, our body language. So the first thing you do when you want to cultivate a strong relationship is smile, right? Right? A smile, I'm telling you, when you smile, people tend to smile back. You know, say hello, allow people and during COVID, now we know we hear 2 meters, right? 6 feet.
Not only that, because sometimes during COVID, we cannot see the smile, we have the mask.
I know, it might not, but you know, that is true, right? But let's see if you could tell. That's a wonderful statement, right? So I have on my map.
Yeah.
Am I smiling?
With the eyes, yeah.
No.
Right? So the truth is that we never really ever only looked at the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When someone is smiling, we see all the things that happen. So I begin to smile and my eyes crinkle, and sometimes when I frown, the middle crinkles up. Right? And so people will still see the smile. What I wanted to say though is, we talk about physical distancing. That is very different than social distancing. right? And so even if you're physically distant, you can smile or you can nod, right? You nod at someone, or you can still wave, right? And just keep moving. Now, it may not be a great time to speak to that faculty member about their research interests, because maybe they're getting ready to teach. And maybe they're getting ready to teach you, right? And so class is about to begin. But you begin by thinking about anyone that you interact with as a potential sponsor, support person for you, right? A person that might help you navigate or move around this place in a comfortable way. So let me share that, continue sharing my screen, right? And so the things that I would like you to think about in terms of work, cultivating work and assistantship opportunities is one, learn the culture here at the University at all. You have a school, some of you mentioned that. You have a department, and then you have a local area, right? And so the school is the University at Albany. Your department, you each both mentioned psychology, I believe, and EPL, education. EPL is
leadership, policy and leadership.
Oh yes, policy, right? And so I should know that, by the way, but I'm crazy today. But so learning the culture, school, department, and local area. The second thing you want to focus on is how you manage your time, right? And so I typically use a time management worksheet, and I will share it with Alyssa and she can share it with you. But for undergraduates, I always say that you should set aside at least 3 hours for every credit that you're taking as a scholar, right? That set aside 3 hours to do your academic work. So for graduate students, I say 4 to 5 hours. So if you're taking 9 credits, how many have you registered for, each of you?
Nine.
9 each?
International students in the graduate level, 9 credit is mandatory.
Okay, so 9 you're taking. Losing?
9.
You're taking 9 credits
yeah.
as well. So if you're taking 9 credits, I would want you to set aside between 27 and 36 hours of academic work a week, right? That's academic work. And so if it's 27, you add that to the 9 hours that you're in class. If it's 36, which is what I'm preferring, you add that to the 9 hours in your class. So now you're setting aside 45 hours each for academic work. What's great about that, if you schedule 45 hours, that's just a job, right? Yeah. That's just a job.
Yeah.
Right? And so
it's a full-time job.
Right? It's a full-time job, which is what academics should be. So schedule that. The great news is there's 168 hours in a week. 168. So if you take away those 45, you still have another 123 hours left in that week. And so so there's more than enough time for you to do any other things that you would like to do if you make sure that you manage that amount of time, right? One thing I want you to steer away from is comparing yourself to your peers. You could be in a department where they like to compete, right? But your path is your own. I know I'm biased because I was raised that way, that my path was my own. It's part of my spiritual belief, right? That everyone has their own path. It's connected to the universe, of course, but it is your own. And no one else will walk through this world in the same way that you will. So try to refrain from comparing yourself to your peers. Next thing for success is self-care. So what do you do to take care of yourself? So just share with me a little bit of how are you, what are your, now I say, Ruzin,
Yes.
what do you do for self-care? What do you do for fun?
So basically, you eat. I eat. I sleep enough, and I do some exercise if I got time, and read book for like mental health, as the PowerPoint showing.
Okay.
And
All right.
study to improve myself,
Mm-hmm.
and it's important to stay healthy in this, like, during COVID, and
Yeah.
hang on with friends for like mental health also.
Yeah. What about you, Kim?
So yeah, I'm pretty engaged. So I live with my family here. I have a small boy. He's a second grader, and I have my wife. And so when I have some time, I really like to engage with him. So he brings so many topics to discuss over here. That is one part of the discussion. And since this is the COVID situation, we normally stay inside the home. So when I get some time, maybe more basically in the morning or the evening, I normally walk around in my apartment area, and sometimes we have a virtual meeting with friends and family. My extended families, they are in Nepal, so we have around 12-hour time difference.
Yeah.
And here sometimes we like to have a conversation with video
Okay.
video meeting.
Uh-huh.
And beside that, sometimes I love watching movies and documentaries. And sometimes we feel maybe more like stress because of that assignments and other situations. So I would like to get fresh watching some maybe comedy things,
Okay.
like
Uh-huh.
songs. Yeah, these are the things going on.
So
But
net.
I really love to connect with people and talk, get to know about them and their culture.
Uh-huh.
They are doing so. Almost every day I have been talking and getting to know at least few people every day. That's
Okay. So
part of my,
let's stop there, right?
yeah.
And so clearly, you both have the right idea, right? That self-care is not selfishness, right? It's about self-preservation, right? It's not, it's not greedy. You cannot serve others if, you're not serving yourself. So there's some things I want you to pay attention to in that regard. One is your visual and verbal self-presentation, right? And so now I'm talking about the things you say about how you look and the things you say about who you are and your abilities. You want to make sure that you're doing so in a caring way, that you're not overly critical of yourself. And I say visual because, I've looked at myself and thought, ugh, you're looking old, dude, right? And that's not a great thing to say about yourself, especially coming from a culture where to be older is actually a sign of, in my culture, if you're older, that's a good thing, right?
Mature,
And so,
being more mature.
right, you're a mentor, you're an elder, right? It's very important in my culture. The next thing is you mentioned family, right? And you mentioned communities.
Mm-hmm.
So building a community here is a really important thing. And Ruzine, you brought up mental health a lot, so you're doing well there. The last piece here, I have a sentence, and I said, how are you taking care of yourself? One, the time management that I'm talking about is about self-care, right? Setting aside time to do your academic work so that later you're not stressed out, right? Some people think you have to be stressed out in school. I argue that you have to be stressed to live, right? I have a biology background. Stress is one of the things that keeps us alive. So if a predator was chasing us and we felt no stress, the predator gets us, right? But we feel stress and then we run, right? And so stress is important. But if you are strategic now, you will see that you will not have as much stress. You will begin to build habits that make you successful, and then your peers will wonder why you seem so happy while they're so stressed out, right? So strategy now, plan now, so that you won't have to worry about catching up later. So developing your professional identity, right? And so developing your professional identity starts with determining your brand, right? What is the reputation that you want people to have about who you are? Think about now, write out for yourselves after this session, who do you want? Are there any people that you want to have in your network? So you want to establish a network, and then you want to grow your network. You could do this, perhaps you were in a fraternity or a sorority or a cultural group as an undergrad. Those undergraduate relationships can be cultivated at the graduate level. There are groups here that are still here, and they're looking for graduate scholars like yourselves to participate with them. And so get connected to those. There are also higher education associations. So these are professional associations that are actually connected to many of the faculty in your department, but they do allow graduate members. And so get connected to a higher ed or faculty level association so that you're already cultivating those relationships. Begin planning. Think about when you want to do your how are any of you already published? I'm not seeing you on the screen, so just say yes or no.
So what do you mean by published?
Have you published articles or books, academic papers, things of that sort?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do.
So you want to continue planning out your development of those things to publish more. And you want to make sure that you don't overdo it, right? You'll hear people say publish or perish, but as a scholar, as a graduate student, you have to still handle all your academic work outside of that. And so you don't want to be so caught up in publishing that the professor who you're taking this course and the professor feels that you're doing terribly there. And then there are professional development opportunities that you should be, you get involved in. There are going to be workshops on campus, and they may not seem like they directly relate to the work that you do. My office, for example, does a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion work, a lot of communication workshops. We do mentoring, peer mentoring opportunities where you come in and you learn how to be a mentor, and that is a part of your professional development. Faculty very often serve as mentors for others, and if you don't know how to do that, you're at a disadvantage when compared to people who have that experience. And then I'll say last but certainly not least, your financial decisions, right? You would be surprised at how many graduate scholars do not finish because of because of finances, right? So strategize, think about how you're going to spend money. You need, and especially Kim, you mentioned that you have a second grader, right? Or did you say a 2-year-old?
Yeah, second grader, 7 years.
Second grader, so a 7-year-old, right? So, look, I have my children. My daughter has an MBA, and my son, he went to school not far from you, Kim. He went to Cornell, and then he went to Boston University, and he lives in LA, and my daughter lives in Brooklyn. They're both doing very well. Each of them, I don't really know how much both of them are making, but I'm pretty certain they're making more than me. And I'm still giving them money, right? So you know, being a parent is always going to impact your budget. But you can be strategic, and you can go, you can make this a really smooth experience, or it could be really bumpy. By not planning, it's bumpy, right? You want to understand your offer letter, right? Speak to if you have a faculty advisor, a faculty mentor, have them look at it. Make sure you know the money that you're getting. Personal finances, right? Set aside your own. If you want to do things for fun, some of the things you mentioned, set that aside, and do not take money that's designed for your academic work and use it for your personal things unless you have to. That's, you know, personal comes before academics, you know, but academics can make your personal life even better. Understand any other costs that you might have, and I'm saying this now, as August is not too late. Look and find out what your insurance options are. We don't want to be sick, right? But if you got sick, how would you pay for that? So you want to make sure, find out, is GSE, you know, the GSO, is there any care for there? Is there any insurance through there? Are there any hidden fees that you weren't aware of? Very often people are upset when they find out there was a hidden fee. I'm typically upset at myself when there's a hidden fee that I didn't know about, because I could have done my research. Conferences. Ask for money. Now, right now is not a good time to travel because COVID and everybody's broke. But God willing, COVID won't be around forever in this way. And so if there's a conference and a professor said they would love for you to go, you know, ask the professor, I would love to go. Say, I would love to go, but is there any financial support for me to go? Don't stop there. There are offices like mine that offer grants to students. Not a lot of money, but if you came to me and said, hey, I really would love to go to this conference, I might be able to find a mini grant to offer to you so that you could travel to this conference. I've done it before. And then there are books. Hopefully you already know EPUB is amazing, right? You could find books. Try not to just go to the bookstore or go online and buy from Amazon right away. Find ways to get the books you need free of charge before you go out and buy. And then last but certainly not least, job search. Some of you have a fellowship. I had a fellowship in graduate school, so I wasn't supposed to have a job, right? But look online. Don't count yourselves out regarding what jobs you can have and what you can't have. Ask, ask, ask. Allow other people to say no. Be persistent. Try to find some way to have income while you're here if you need it. And so I'll stop there. Are there any questions you have for me? And now this is the piece where I have around 10 minutes. And really, it's any question, doesn't have to be about my presentation, about graduate life here at UAlbany.
So that's a great presentation. Iko, am I pronounce your name correctly?
Yeah, I typically say Ek-wo.
Oh, oh, okay.
Ek-wo.
Okay.
Whoa, like
okay.
Ek-wo.
Okay, I like your smile. That's a great smile.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
That has energized us throughout this presentation. Thank you so much for that. I also learned that. And I really found the tips you shared regarding that dividing your time, hours for a week. I didn't think that way. I was also thinking in different way, but I found that is more practical. So if we divide that week hours for about, if we are taking maybe 9 credit hours, maybe 45 hours per week, that's a decent time, yes.
And it's very.
And Ekwo, you said you had a resource that you'd share that I could send out to students?
Yes, I do. And while you're on what I could do is actually, Let me see. I thought I didn't open it. But no, I don't want to show it that way. It's so weird being on Zoom. But I can send it to you because I was going to go and get it from the front. I have it in the front and then show it to you on this camera. But yeah, so it's called the Time Management Worksheet.
Okay.
And it's a grid and it has 168 hours on it, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm an early bird. Rosine, say your name again for me. Rosine.
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 Sing.
Rosine.
It's like
Rosine.
sing. Just say sing. Yeah.
No, I'm trying to get the tone because
You actually did it better than most of.
Is that Mandarin?
Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
I know a little bit of a lot of languages. Rosine. All right, I love that name. It's beautiful. What does it mean?
It's the sun when it's rising. Sun at 7 a.m.
I'm an early bird, so that's good. So I might put that in one of my posts. I'll say the Rosine, right, and then show the sun rising. So, do you have any questions?
I do. So I was wondering, like, what are some places or ways to find an assistantship?
Okay, and so the first thing you should do is speak to the chair of your department. Because people very often, if you want an assistantship and they don't know that you're looking for that, then you might not get it. There's another thing. There's a career center, career and professional services on campus. And Noah Simon is the director. And they have a program called Handshake. And and Handshake has all of the graduate assistantships that are here. But remember what I said, if you could get a fellowship, that's even better. Right? A fellowship, you get money, but you don't have to pay. You don't have to work for it. You do your academic work and you get paid. So fellowship or assistantships. But you could also, Alyssa, make sure that Rosine has that she has my email address.
Okay. And I also just sent a link on graduate assistantships as well. But I'll send I'll send your email address in the chat as well.
Oh, that would be great. And so wow. So yeah, so that's what I would do for now. Contact my office and I might be able to find it. Sometimes people come through me. I don't have a lot of money and positions as an individual. But because I've cultivated relationships at the university, I have the ability to reach out to other departments and people might say, they know that if they help you, they're helping Rosine, but they're really helping me too. Right? And so that's how my network is your network. And
so
that
before closing, I have a quick question. So you might have some idea about that. I'm little bit interested to know about the family engagement. So is there any type of the programs? Because I live with family. And as international students, the family, the dependent, they cannot work in the United States. So I would like to see some of type of engagement, family engagement in the university.
And so so we do a few different programs on campus, and we encourage people. Some of the programs are not for children and all that, but many of our programs in a non-COVID world are also for parents, right? And so what I want you to think about, I'm going to connect you. Go and look Intercultural Student Engagement on the website, and you'll see that we do. I mean, for example, I'm going to give a perfect example. We have done for the last. Have you ever been to the Diwali celebration?
No, actually, this is my first semester.
Oh, this is your first semester. All right. So we have a Diwali night here at the University at Albany that's organized by the Indian Student Organization. And so I'm going to say for you that you should connect with ISO because there's families. I could connect you to my personal friends, but really they're engineers or whatever. They're doing whatever they're doing. But you want to connect with scholars like yourself who also have kids, and many of them have children that are 7, 8, 9, similar age. So what I would say is we do have, through connecting to the affinity groups, that's the best way to find people who have similar experiences to yours. Again, send me an email. Thank you, Alyssa, you're killing it. But send me an email address. Send me an email and say, hey, this is Kim. If there's anything that's going on, keep me connected. And I'll do that. And Rosine, is that something that you're interested in as well? I'm willing to do that for you. And all of you who are watching this and didn't get up at 11 o'clock to see my thing, I'll still help out. I'll help you out too. Any other questions? Okay, so our office is located in the campus center. Are you familiar with what the campus center, are both of you in the Albany area?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I am in Albany area.
So if you're on campus, we're in the campus center. If you send me an email, I'll reply, and you'll see I have this link. It's called Calendly. We're Calendly. It's like a calendar, but you click on that, and that's the best way to make an appointment with me. And we'll just sit down and talk about what you as an individual would need to do to be successful here. I'm willing to do that as well.
Great.
Okay, so just because I have to, I'm gonna go now because I have another meeting straight through lunch. But it's been great talking to you all, and I hope the recording of this presentation is helpful to the other scholars who are watching it.
Yeah.
Thank you, and have a great day. Alyssa, I'll see you
Thank you, Akko. Thank you so much. This was a wonderful presentation.
anytime. Thank you.
Thank you.